Welcome to our webinar on supply chain control towers. I am Heidi Ulrich, your moderator and webinar organizer for today. Before we start, let's take a moment to ensure that everyone is ready and familiar with the webinar control panel. First, you should have a control panel on the right side of your screen. You may hide this panel by clicking on the red arrow button in the upper left corner of the control panel. You may expand the panel by clicking the same button. Second, you have the ability to submit questions using the chat pane located near the bottom of the control panel. Make sure you select Send Question to Staff before clicking the Send button. There will be a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. As a final remark, please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be made available for on-demand playback. Let's get started. Today's presenter is Neil Wielden. Take it away, Neil.
Dear all, welcome to the Danka webinar on supply chain control towers, myths and inside sharing. My name is Neil Wielden and I am the Global Product Development Manager for Danka. Over the next 45 minutes, I will share with you some key insights which we hope will help you in cutting through the control tower hype in order to make it work for you. After this, I will open the floor for questions where you can use the questions box in the right-hand side of the screen to click on and add questions, which I will field a selection of questions at the end. Please feel free to ask questions using the chat panel as we move through this webinar, and I will attempt to answer these questions at the end. Now let's get going. In today's webinar, I will aim to cover the topics of essentially who is Danka, control towers hype versus reality, a practical guide to control tower journey, what is Danka's supply chain orchestration product, and we'll be able to answer questions at the end. So who is Danka? Danka is the global logistics arm of the Maersk Group. Together with other companies within the group, we help our various customers to realize opportunities in global trade through international transportation solutions, cargo handling solutions, and information management solutions. Let's look at Danka in more detail. As one of the world's largest global logistics company with over 10,000 customers operating transportation and supply chain management services in over 100 countries, Danka is able to leverage over 100 years of experience in logistics to support customers in this wide range of industries through a range of transportation, supply chain management, and freight forwarding products. Our strategic focus on retail, lifestyle, technology, industrial, and chemicals industries allows us to leverage this industry-specific expertise together with our logistics know-how to build compelling solutions. So when we speak about control towers, we do so from many years of experience of operating centralized management and execution solutions for many key customers in many different industry verticals. You could say our combined learning and experience helps us to talk with authority on this subject. So what is control tower hype and reality? In this next section, I will start with talking about a definition of control towers, where is the hype and reality when it comes to control towers, before moving on to the next section. First of all, let's start with the definition of a control tower. Perhaps one of the best definitions of what a control tower is was introduced by Capgemini in 2011. This definition gave birth to a pure view that a control tower is essentially a centralized function with the prerequisite technology, expertise, and processes to be able to detect and react quickly to events within the supply chain. Unfortunately, this definition and subsequent interpretation of the definition has given birth to a whole plethora of definitions and product offerings shaped based on the attributes of the offerer more than the capabilities that are actually required. In some cases, this has led to confusion and misinterpretation of the terms and the language used when describing and talking about control towers and control tower solutions. So why control towers and what are their benefits? Control towers can be useful for a number of reasons. Control towers act as an aggregation layer across multiple providers and supply chains. They can create one single visibility solution that can combine information from multiple parties and support your business to utilize information in a more harmonious way for planning, execution, and optimization purposes. Essentially, the challenge is to create one single version of the truth from many different data sources and many different underlying providers. Control towers can take over the day-to-day control over supply chain execution of multiple parties. This creates the necessary time for you to focus on more strategic supply chain challenges whilst outsourcing day-to-day performance management. Third element is that control tower teams are usually skilled at onboarding and integrating with other service providers, enabling you to create more diverse logistics supplier bases, leveraging more and more the local heroes in order to gain greater cost and executional advantages within your supply chain. As a control tower has access to all supply chain data, managed service control towers such as the Danka Orchestrator platform support data cleansing and information management necessary to ensure the free flow of goods. So what is hype and reality when we talk about control towers? As we have seen in the earlier slide, control towers can help you to reduce lead time, reduce transportation costs, and improve reliability through visibility, data management, and control. Seamlessly connecting partners to predict challenges and to optimize the flow of your goods across the international national supply chain. So what is hype and what is reality? In the hype category, the idea that a control tower is an out-of-the-box solution is simply incorrect. As Danka, we have engaged in many control tower projects, and what we have clearly recognized is that building a control tower, and I emphasize the term building, is a transformation effort which is as much to do with the people and process changes as it is to do with software and solution design. Likewise, good data quality is not guaranteed by the implementation of a control tower unless you have the right people and technology to clean and manage the data that you use within your control tower and visibility solution. This is not often an easy task. There are of course many other hypes around control towers, but it is this out-of-the-box thinking that in many cases is the root cause of control tower implementation failures. So then what is reality? It is clear that within supply chain management, much focus and investment has gone in to build infrastructure, systems capabilities, and processes to support the control tower model. And through the combination of technology, processes, and people, we are able to create centralized teams which have the data at their fingertips to act across multiple providers and to model events within the supply chain. Control towers do provide a single escalation point and can provide necessary optimization data, but they are only as good as the people who operate them, the experience brought into the control tower, and the technology that underpins the solution. So where does some of the confusion actually come from? Well, in many cases, some of the confusion comes from perception or spin around the term control tower. As we have seen across a number of our customers and across the industry in general, there are three key parties that have a view on control towers. Consulting firms eager to support strategy and transformation tend to focus on the strategy and process elements of how a control tower is formed and is executed. They tend to focus more on how you process certain events and how you build a control tower, not necessarily on the executional level detail. Platform providers or IT providers focus on visibility as a key enabler of success in the control tower. They advocate control towers based on visibility, data integration, and a single version of the truth. And of course, LSPs tend to focus more on the supply chain execution as a driver for success. The day-to-day operations and operation management capability and knowledge brought to support the execution of your supply chain, wherever it may be in the world. As we have seen then that these perspectives may vary quite widely, there is often a limited consensus on the topic, given these certain backgrounds. Therefore, in the next section, I will try to provide some key pointers you should consider in your control tower journey, regardless of where your perception may be or regardless of what the terminology that is used to describe a control tower may indeed be like. So moving into this selection, I will touch on some key design and more executional perspectives you should consider when embarking on a control tower journey. Incidentally, these elements are also outlined in my Danka blog on control tower myths and misconceptions. So if you miss anything, then please feel free to go to my blog and download the webinar or the blog itself. So, key design considerations. With the hype put to one side, what elements should you consider when embarking on a control tower journey? Firstly, we start with vision. Perhaps the most underestimated element within control tower implementations is the need for a clear vision and deliberate change strategy. As per CAP's definition, control towers are not just about technology, but the people who use the technology. Therefore, by default, a control tower implementation becomes a change project, requiring a clear vision and link to your supply chain strategy. Only through this approach can you engage people in the journey and align on the appropriate partner and metrics. Before, perhaps not in a number of cases, we have seen within Danka a poorly articulated vision that has ended in costly solutions to uncostly problems. Therefore, we highly recommend that in this phase you engage with supply chain professionals or internally within your own organization in diagnosing need and want. Use our free white paper to answer some of those misconceptions. The second element is to understand the journey. Control tower implementations are journeys. They require a significant investment in integrating partners, aligning measurements, aligning and improving data quality, and then transitioning to more advanced optimization and orchestration capabilities. In Danka, we see this as a three-step journey. First, establish credible visibility through cleaning and optimizing data. Secondly, implement control and performance management across the supply chain. And thirdly, deliver optimization both tactically and strategically to optimize the overall supply chain. Select the right partner next. There is a real philosophical and executional difference between pure software, consulting, or logistics provider capabilities. Therefore, you need to be clear on which partner you can support your vision. And in some respects, it may be biased to say, but whilst the software provider can provide visibility and the tools to see, and whilst consulting companies can support transformation, the long-term focus post-transformation may not be there. Indeed, it is often only the logistics provider that can orchestrate the activities to predict and solve supply chain challenges. Of course, this is a sweeping generalization, but the point being is that partner selection is probably the most underestimated area within control tower implementations, which often leads to the most amount of challenges down the road. It is important to ensure that you have the right partner and right fit in terms of capabilities, organizational fit, transformation support capabilities, and day-to-day operational know-how, specifically when outsourcing this as a core capability. The fourth consideration is to align on metrics. When implementing a control tower, it is necessary to align metrics across your supply chain partners to ensure that measures and KPIs are built in a cascading fashion in order to support the ability of the control tower to intervene in performance managing the supply chain partners. As the old adage goes, people do what is inspected, not what is expected. The same holds true for the ability of control towers to measure and manage underlying service providers. In our experience, it is important that the control tower manager or control tower provider is empowered to engage with the underlying logistics service providers, and that these empowerment is not just in terms of relationships, but also from a service level agreement alignment and contractual definitions. This supports the ability of the control tower to manage throughout the process, both from a collaboration, an execution, and a day-to-day management perspective. Moving on now towards executional considerations. There are, of course, many considerations to take into account when talking about control tower execution. In this slide, I will go through what I consider to be 4 of the key executional elements that you should consider when designing, configuring, and setting up a control tower solution. The first consideration is one or many. Essentially, do I have one or many control towers? In this sense, organizations may require a network of control towers to support either business unit, geographical, or customer supplier demands. Where customers like yourselves may organize on a business or geography level, it is recommended to organize subunits along these lines, ensuring that tactical organizational alignment of the control tower with the business itself. In many cases, these setups are then aggregated into a higher level control tower function. So you could say that there would be one controlling overall control tower which aggregates the data from many regional towers to provide one holistic version of the truth, one control point, and one strategic optimization layer, whilst keeping the tactical flexibility of localized control towers in regions with business units in local language with the local prerequisite capabilities to be able to detect and act and support locally. The next question refers essentially to location. Where do I locate my control tower? Similar to the one or many discussions, it is always necessary to locate your towers close to talent to ensure consistent development of the solution, but also close to decision makers. In many cases, whilst technology has reduced the need for physical co-location, in reality, control towers should form an integrative element of many supply chain teams and should be attached to those supply chain teams, nurtured and fostered and supported by those supply chain teams. The next element is sensitivity. This is an important point because this varies quite considerably across various companies and control tower requirements. Sensitivity in itself is an important discussion point within control towers. Often there is a demand for milestones, GPS tracking, auditing at every step. Whilst in some supply chains this is highly relevant and appropriate, in others this is a costly, expensive exercise when just measured by the amount of data that flows across parties. There are often also hidden costs in supporting the infrastructure to collect, propagate, and store data. As many refer to the cloud solution, in this solution there is the need to connect to multiple parties, although much easier than ever before, the requirement to store the data and process the data and make it available to the required parties. Often in many cases this can result in data overload and missing key supply chain steps through focusing on the aggregate rather than the important. It's important that the data generates real insights. Therefore, build a tower based on the insight that you want to gain, not for the ubiquitous pursuit of data, as this does complicate matters further. Our experience shows that the work we put into having superior data quality to others has more benefits to the supply chain than the work we put into exposing ever more data sources at this point of time. So what do you want the control tower to achieve in the end? This is a key and important topic. In the end, if it's about visualization, then there's a piece of the equation missing. You are often then seeing what has happened. You therefore need to consider orchestration. Orchestration is essentially the ability to arrange and manage the supply chain to seek out issues before they occur and optimize across an entire supply chain landscape of shippers, customers, suppliers, and other stakeholders. So in our view, it's important to evaluate the role of the control tower. If it is essentially to visualize the supply chain, this of course provides benefits towards the aggregation of data and the day-to-day management. If you want your control tower to control the supply chain, then it requires more capabilities to integrate with suppliers, to act on a day-to-day basis, and to be able, as CAP defined it, to detect and act to supply chain events. All of these require various degrees of empowerment to the supply chain organization and to the control tower provider. So in execution, it is important to confirm or define whether to visualize, to control, or to orchestrate. So, leading nicely on, let's talk a little about Danka's supply chain orchestrator product. As Danka, we wanted to build a product that really addressed the needs that many of our customers express. How do I orchestrate my supply chain to ensure everything flows in the right way, so I get the most optimal visibility and I can optimize my supply chain for efficiency regardless of who is the underlying provider? To this end, we designed Supply Chain Orchestrator. As the name suggests, this is a managed service. Like the conductor in an orchestra, Danka will manage the end-to-end flow, create visibility, manage executional performance, and optimize the day-to-day operations of the supply chain, as well as supporting strategic network design. This may be a bit of self-promotion, but we believe the future of complex, multi-party supply chain development lies in the ability to orchestrate the flow of goods, to leverage deep-rooted knowledge, and engage in real time with parties in whatever geography they may reside. Core to this philosophy is Danka's deep-rooted understanding and knowledge in international supply chain, our core capabilities developed over many years in data management and visibility, and our desire to partner with customers to help them in their supply chain and control tower transformation initiatives. Supply Chain Orchestrator is a new product from Danka that combines all of these capabilities to leverage across many logistics service providers, customers, suppliers, stakeholders, and partners. So moving on to the summary. So in summary to the last section and the previous sections that we have covered in this webinar, what we want to leave you with is a number of bullet points. In order to summarize, when considering control towers, ensure that you define your strategy up front. This is important to define the goals and objectives for the supply chain and control tower provider and to align with your organizational priorities. Second element is to realize it is a transformation. It is not simply an out-of-the-box solution. It requires you to transform your business in terms of providing the right level of change management capabilities, the right level of knowledge, skills, people, and process development to build a control tower that can be sustainable and deliver a lasting competitive advantage for your organization. The other element is to find the right partner. Ensure that you partner with organizations that can meet your strategic objectives. If it is transformation, then partner with a transformation partner. If the key is visibility, then partner with somebody who can support visibility. If the key is day-to-day operations and operations management, then partner with somebody who can support those capabilities. In many of those boxes, there are providers and capabilities that can support, and as an organization, it is necessary to partner with the partner that is most aligned with your strategic vision and requirements for a control tower product. Next element is to align measures. Ensure that the control tower is empowered through having measures that are aligned with the measures of the underlying service providers in order to ensure that the control tower can act on your behalf, can execute with power, and can measure the key KPIs required to ensure your business success. When designing control towers, define the structure, i.e. how many and where, what business units they will support, what geographies they will support, and what capabilities are required in each geography. Define whether there is a need for a centralized control tower or many regional control towers that report into a centralized control tower. This is often best defined by what are the objectives of the individual business units, how can they be linked and aligned to your global vision, and what kind of sensitivity do you require within a control tower to detect and act and manage across time zones, languages, suppliers, and geographies. The other element is to define the location. To locate your control tower close to sources of talent used to run and execute the control tower and close to your business. In many respects, the control tower should be an integrative part of your supply chain management capabilities and should be located close to supply chain management decision-making and executional requirements. The other element is to define the sensitivity. So what is it that you measure? What is the data that's important to the running of the tower? And how can that be used in the right way to generate meaningful and actionable insights? Of course, the final element is to define what essentially the control tower will do. Is it simply to visualize data that can be used elsewhere within the organization, or to centralize the visibility of information used even within supplier or partner management? Or is it to take control and support the day-to-day activities of supply chain execution? Essentially, the decision is simple: to visualize or to orchestrate. But the consequences of that decision require much more development and investment in the change required to execute from visualization to orchestration, there is a big gap in terms of the capabilities within the marketplace and the capabilities of providers, knowledge, transformational capabilities, and control capabilities to support business requirements. And of course, we refer to the Danka supply chain orchestrator. It's one single visibility solution, one integration point, and one optimization solution. It allows you to optimize across the supply chain regardless of underlying partner, based on our technology, our people, our processes, and most of all the culmination of knowledge that we have built within Danka, within complex international supply chain, visibility and data management solutions. This solution leverages the Danka know-how to support you in your transformation journey. So essentially, to learn more, of course there are a number of ways to find out more about our solution and the information that we have shared today within the blog. First method is to go to our website, which is damco.com/orchestrator. In this website you can find out more information about the webinar that we have conducted today, the product material around the Orchestrator concept, and general information about Danka. Of course, you can also feel free to contact us. As said, my name is Neil Wielden. I'm a product development manager within Danka, and you can reach out directly to me within this link. Also, the product manager for our Control Tower product or Orchestrator product is Jerry Dalhusen. You can also feel free to reach out to him at the following email address. As stated earlier, this webinar is available for recording or downloading, or you can download the recording at the link shared later. Feel free to find out more at damco.com. Okay, with that we reach the end of this webinar session. Thank you for your attention. We have some time now to collect your questions. You can submit the questions you have via the chat panel located at the bottom of the sidebar on the right-hand side of your screen. Make sure to select Send Question to Staff before clicking the Send button. I'll reach out to those who ask a question shortly after this webinar via email. You can expect my response ASAP within a few days max. Those without questions can choose now to leave the webinar. What we'll do is we will pause for a minute to allow for questions as indicated. Please use the chat panel. Thank you. I saw several questions coming in. As indicated, all questions will be addressed by email. With that, I thank you very much for your attention and for your questions. Thank you.